Hello everybody, this is Gregory with How I Lost Over 100 Pounds and I've kept it up for 30 plus years, where there should be no hesitance in your weight loss and in your weight maintenance. Today we're going to give some practical advice. If you suffer from binge eating or impulse eating, don't go to the grocery store hungry, and some other hacks that you can do. Now before we begin, if you need help with weight loss, contact me through the Clarity FM link found here in the episode notes. Also check out my website, which has hundreds of articles and recipes, my 2 books, which you can find on Amazon, my podcast, The Awakened Man, which has been around since 2017 and is very health related. And lastly, if you appreciate my content, there is a link for PayPal. Now, look, I understand that there are people who suffer from kind of binge eating or impulse buying, and we've talked about different kind of techniques that you can do to thwart that. I talked about in my personal playlist that there was a time in my life where when I would go to work that I would know that I would on the way home stop at McDonald's or something and just get a bunch of cheeseburgers. So I just wouldn't take my wallet with me. I would just take my driver's license, because if I didn't have any money, I couldn't buy anything. Now, of course, this was the time before you could buy stuff from your phone and all these things like that. But that's just an example. So like with all things with weight loss, you have to do some deep introspection and realize what makes you tick and realize what sets you off. And one of these things would be if you know that going to the grocery store is like Augustus Gloop from Willy Wonka, you're like going into a chocolate factory and there's just, you can't stop eating, then you need to, number one, make that identification, make that notice that that's what happens, and then try to avoid that. So there's different ways to avoid it. Like one, now a lot of people use the pickup apps, or the ones where you just they bring the food to you from the grocery store. I mean, certainly there's different services. You have services that will actually bring the groceries to your house. Then you have the curbside ones where you just park outside and they bring it to you. Now these are 2 useful things if you're the type of person that impulse buys, and you'll go into the grocery store with like a list of 5 things, but you know you don't have the willpower to only get those 5 things, and you come out with 12 things, and the other 7 things is just Cheetos and crappy donuts and all these things like that. So if you're one of those types, or maybe you go to the grocery store and you go hungry, we know that those hunger pangs and those cues are going to more likely trigger you to either go to the candy bins and eat candies, or go get the donuts. And you see people who are at the grocery store and they're buying candy and already eating the candy while they're at the grocery store. So again, it's like we have to know ourselves. And there are certain people that just lack the willpower to go into a grocery store and just get whatever they need and get out. And there's little things that you can do. You can chew gum, you can go with somebody else to make sure that you're accountable and so forth. And I would just tell you, I mean, these are all stopgaps. These are all things that you can do that are like patching up a hole, but ultimately you're not getting to the root problem. And the root problem is a disordered relationship with food, which is just constantly talked about here. And so look, for me, it's not so much tempting. Like if I go grocery shopping before I break my fast, which is at 3 o'clock, I don't really have any temptation to snack or go to the snack bins or stuff like that, because like I know for me, maintaining my fast is more important than having some snacks. Now, if I go to the grocery store after I break my fast, yes, there's temptation to get stuff or to nibble on stuff. So for me, it's not as big of a problem, because I'm not really the type to go in with a list of things and then come out with 7 more things. I kind of already know what I want to get. And so I personally don't have that problem. Now, I used to have that problem. Like I go to the grocery store and I would buy 6 large donuts and cookies and all these things. I talk about in the Reflections of a Weight Loss Warrior series, especially when I lived in Alaska, that this was very common. But as I've worked through the process of detaching emotion from food, I really don't have this problem anymore. But there are people who still have this problem, and it's a constant thing that you need to work on. And I think in some ways, it's even harder now, because when I used to have that really hard time when I would leave my wallet at home to go to work, I didn't really have another way to get food. But now, I mean, there's Uber Eats, there's all these things that you can just boop, boop, boop from your phone, and most people are not going to leave their phones at home. So back in the day, it's like, yeah, I don't have to take my wallet. Oh, that diffuses a lot of the stress of impulse buying, impulse eating, and all these things. But now with phones, I mean, 3 clicks away, you can have a gigantic meal or McDonald's brought to you at any second. And that does make it more difficult. So certainly this is understanding why we spend the most money right now on health food and organic foods ever in American history. We spend the most money we've ever had on gyms, yet at the same time we're the fattest we've ever been in American history, right? And so there's this disconnect. So ultimately, for long-term weight loss, long-term weight maintenance, is you got to do the deep work and detach that thing and have an ordered relationship with food. Like my dog, you can see over here sleeping. You just hungry, eat. No longer hungry, don't eat. Easier said than done. So in closing, when you go to the grocery store, know that you're getting manipulated. We have an episode here, our grocery stores manipulate you as soon as you walk in, where they put stuff, the music, all these things, they seduce you. We talk about food porn and on commercials, how they seduce you as well. So know when you go into a grocery store, have the proper mindset. And if you're not there yet, then it's probably best to order food or go with somebody and so forth until you get to that point. But understand that grocery stores are not your friends, and they're there to manipulate you to get more money out of your wallet. So you have to just, knowledge is power, know what's going on, know what they're trying to do, know where you're at this given moment in terms of your impulse buying, and do the best you can to stymie these things. Guys, post in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, take care. God bless and pray.